Been cruising around Brooklyn, New York City, trying to find a place to review this crazy bike. This is the Haibike XDURO AllMtn 8.0, top of the line, and found this park. And I just thought this would be cool, like go over some routes and, you know, get a little dirty. This is one of my favorite bike models from one of my favorite companies. I really appreciate full suspension on electric bikes, even if you're just using it to commute and stuff. Like, I tend to go a little bit further because you've got assistance, and that smooths the journey out. But you're probably not looking at this bike for that reason. You're probably thinking, like, this will be awesome. I can go climb the trails and then practice some downhilling and just enjoy going a little bit further. Or maybe you've got a knee injury, or, you know, whatever the case may be. This is top of the line equipment right here. We've got the Bosch Performance Line CX motor. That's their highest torque motor right now, 75 Newton meter peak output. And I'm just look at this thing. It's kind of tilted up a little bit. Haibike has really done a good job integrating with this like plastic, kind of a scuff guard along the bottom that doesn't protrude too much. It's real smooth, got a really nice clearance there. And of course they're known for doing other stuff like this sprocket equalizing system. I think of it as kind of a chain tensioner, but you know, they talk about how it reduces kickback. It's got narrow, wide teeth, so you're not going to get the slippage as much. Same thing on that sprocket right here, 16 tooth, so that's smaller than a lot of the other chain rings that you'll see on Bosch Performance Line motors for road bikes and stuff. Because again, this is a climber. But if you look back here, we've got 8, you know, really wide range of gears in this cassette. I think it's 11 to 48 tooth SRAM EX1 derailleur. Really high-end stuff. Love that they got the slap guard in here. You can see there's a link right there for doing service or, you know, fixes. And then they've got this nice kind of a bash guard. Maybe keeps the chain on track a little bit, but you've still got the sprocket equalizing system that should clear mud and keep the train on track. So just a really nice drivetrain. Something that is really important when you're off-road and you're bouncing that chain around. Maybe you're descending, you don't want to lose the train, or you're really, you know, putting in the energy, a lot of force for climbing. Of course, the Bosch mid-drives, they have shift detection, and that's something that's really, you know, I think it's pretty important, and it's a pretty neat feature that some of the other motors like Yamaha don't have. It's not perfect, it's software driven, and you can still get mashing, but you can get mashing even if you don't have an electric bike and you're just pedaling hard while you're climbing. So, you know, this motor, it's measuring your rear wheel speed. You see the magnet down there and a little sensor. It's measuring pedal cadence, so you know how fast you're spinning those cranks, and also pedal torque, so how hard you're pushing. And that last piece is really what comes into play for mountain biking, I think, and that's part of what makes this feel fluid. You know, in my experience, it's one of the more powerful, more aggressive electric bike mid-drives out there in the higher levels of assist, of which there are 4. But I like that because I like to spin a little bit faster, and I found that on some of the other drive systems, I'll be approaching a hill and instinctively I'll kind of shift down, right? And I'm getting ready to spin fast and get up that hill. And when I do that with like the Yamaha system or some of the others, the motor just drops out completely. And so it's like, then I'm forced to shift down even slower, and then eventually I'm just like crawling up this hill instead of having that fast, fun experience that I enjoy. That's part of what I love about mountain biking, you know, whether it's climbing or going downhill. So Bosch has a wider range of RPM, right, that it's effective at, and I like that. So anyway, right above it you can see there's this nice interface, kind of this aluminum cuff, and that helps to maybe protect the battery a little bit, and it also just creates a nice aesthetic. Even got a little bit of aluminum up here. Some of the other bikes out there, I've seen plastic, whereas this is aluminum. And you know, all over the bike, it's like designed and engineered by Haibike in Germany, hydroform tubing, gravity casting interface. That's where the motor actually interfaces with the bike. So, you know, high-end development and engineering here, and you do pay for that. I was talking about this being one of their higher end bikes before for all mountain riding, which again, you can kind of go anywhere, and it does have long travel, 150 millimeters suspension front and rear with really nice setup. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but the bike's $6,999. It's quite the purchase. You know, you get a pretty good warranty from Haibike. I think it's like 5 years on the frame, 2-year comprehensive on the other electronics and stuff from Bosch. That's pretty typical, but you know, you get what you pay for with this bike. You can see through here there's a little bit of a foam, and that helps to just sort of create some more tension in there when you lock the battery pack on. I was talking about the cuff earlier that just surrounds it, the sprocket equalizing system. There are a lot of little upgrades, and you can see even this little plastic stanchion mud protector. And you've got the same thing here. These are inverted Magura suspension fork. It's nice. It takes some of the weight off of the suspension, unsprung weight, and it puts it up here. But then, of course, these are a little more vulnerable. So it's nice that they went the extra mile and built that. And check this out. See this little tool right here? It's magnetically like connected in there, so you can use this to do some adjustments and maybe do some quick release. I think it's a 15 millimeter through axle, DT Swiss hub, and rims. Just beautiful stuff. Rebound adjust. This is an air fork, relatively lightweight. Back here we've got Fox Float Factory Series, and it's got kind of the 1, 2, 3 climb trail descend, but it's also got firmness right here on this other little clicker. So definitely at the higher end here. All the cables are internally routed. We've got a dropper seat post right here. And one thing, to note about this is that it's externally routed, whereas a lot of the other cables are through the frame. Some of them, it goes like right through the tubing, but maybe this is a little bit more versatile. You can swap the seat tube off earlier compared to some of the other ones. Here's that lever, so you can drop that. When you're climbing, you keep it up high like this. You're getting ready to drop a trail, you push the seat down, stays out of your way. So I like that. That's a really nice feature. Just take you to the other side here. 180 millimeter rotor. These are Magura MT7s, 4 piston calipers, 203 millimeter up front, of course hydraulic. These are the 2 finger levers with reach adjust right there. Just awesome. This is one of the flatter bars I've seen, and of course this is 2017 Haibike. Some of the older ones, they were using the Intuvia display, and so they kind of had more of a bend, and they wanted to protect the bigger Intuvia display panel. Now they're using the smaller display panel, and it just stays out of the way, and it's still kind of vulnerable if you crash, but it's much more like a cycle computer, and that's called the Purion. So really cool. This is sort of an early demo model from Haibike. So it has the Power Pack 400, but the final unit should have the Power Pack 500, so you're getting even more power capacity, and I still think it's under 6 pounds, so it hasn't gotten that heavy. This one's about 5.4 pounds, right? And it just fits so nicely. I want to call out also, they've got this nice locking core, so the battery locks on the bike, but you don't have to take it off if you're charging it. This is the kind of bike that I'd probably store inside, and you don't need to take the battery off. You just take your, I should have brought it, but it's a really nice little charger. It's only 1.7 pounds, 4 amps, relatively quick, and fairly compact. You just plug that into the wall, run it over, and plug right into the battery right there. And I love this rubberized cover, okay? It's easy to press in, it stays in place. This is something that some other companies have struggled with. Namely, I've seen a different design out there on, this is the Bros drive system, so it's kind of a completely separate thing. But I've seen that from Bowls, and they have like a rubber cover that just doesn't stick down. It's kind of like finicky. So it's really nice that they got that right, and it just stays out of the way. You can see the crank arms here. There's nothing that they're going to come in contact with. The keyhole's right up here. Like Bosch just does a great job with their drive system. It hasn't changed a whole lot, and in fact, one of the other things that they have upgraded about the casing is kind of powder coated, so it's designed to be a little bit more insulated and just protected against mud and dirt and stuff. Like that's the actual casing on the motor, whereas some of the older ones had a big plastic shield over it and it took up more space. You take a step back on this one, you can kind of tell it's an electric bike, but it's really, really well integrated. The weight is low, it's centered. And this bike, this is the large size, it's 46 centimeters. They have 4 different frame sizes, and this one weighs 50.5 pounds. So considering just the really long travel suspension, or medium long travel, and some of the feature set on this, that's a pretty good weight. It's not bad at all. Tapered head tube up here, I want to call that out. Extra strength. The through axle, it's going to be keeping you stiff, giving you excellent performance that way. And then the tires, these are knobby Nicks from Schwabe, 27.5 by 3, so they are the plus size, which is going to give you excellent traction. It's going to reduce deflection, meaning like if you hit rocks and kind of like bouncing around, or you know, it's somewhere between the nimble, lighter weight wheels that allow you for quick steering and the 29ers that are just good rolling momentum and help you span gaps versus kind of falling into them and vibrating a lot. So it's a neat combination of stuff. These are becoming more popular on electric bikes, I think, because you've got the power. So adding a little bit of weight, and they can be run tubeless, by the way, you know, it's not such a bad thing. A little bit more drag, it's okay. You're trading comfort and performance for some of the weight. So I think that they've done an excellent job with that. I want to bring you right up to the display panel again. So there's a power button on the top. You press that, comes to life pretty quickly. And they've managed to fit a lot in here. You've got speed and miles per hour, and then assist level right below it, and the battery level indicator. And there are still 5 ticks, so 20% increments. You know, we're down to like 80% right now of the battery, roughly. And I can go down from turbo, which is the highest level, to sport, to tour, to eco, or off. So this can be ridden just like a normal bicycle. Coming back to that smaller sprocket over here, this actually spins. There's some gearing inside, so the sprocket spins more than 2 times for each one of your pedal rotations. So some people said, oh, you know, is there a lot of drag or whatever? In my experience, no. I mean, you have a lot of leverage over this, and you still have a freewheeling rear hub with that quick release, still, you know, mostly just like a normal bike, but that's spinning a little bit faster, and that gives the motor more of a mechanical advantage, so it can operate at high RPM, which is more efficient for it. So that's cool. So coming back up to that, those are the 3 kind of default readouts, but if you hold the minus button here, you can see trip distance. So switch to that, hold it again, and it says total distance. Hold it again, and you get range. Now range is really cool. As I change assist levels, it's going to approximate how much further I can go with the remaining battery capacity. And remember, this is the smaller battery. This is not what it's going to come with. If we arrow up to eco, it's saying 77 miles. That's crazy. I mean, some of this is based on me being a lighter weight rider. It hasn't even gone 5 miles. This bike is like 2 miles old right now. But it's calculating all of this on the fly, and it uses the last miles of data to kind of say, okay, based on the performance, which around here it's just been on streets, based on this rider, how much energy they're putting into, how far can they go. I've been riding at lower speeds and stuff, so again, I think this is a bit inflated for that battery, but I think it's well within reason for the 500 watt hour. So I'm going to arrow all the way up to turbo. That's the highest one, and you can see the range drops dramatically down to 29 miles. But this thing is so powerful, and 350 watt nominal rating, but up to 570 peak. It can climb anything. I mean, I've been on this thing, I've climbed mountains, we'll see in a minute, but it's very effective. And, you know, I'd say it's pretty quiet too, especially on a bike like this that has the knobs and stuff. You're going to hear more of the surroundings and kind of the friction of the wheel than you are of the motor, and that's nice. It's not something that's going to cause distraction or hopefully bother other people. And the top speed's 20 mile per hour. It's a class 1 electric bike. That's the most like allowable electric bike there is, and that's the kind that they frequently use in Europe, where these are really popular in Germany. So I'm gonna hop on this thing for a minute, do a couple pedal rotations, and give you some feedback on the motor, and then we're gonna talk with Chris Nolte over here from Propel Bikes, and I'm gonna have him maybe hop on and get some third-person shots on this thing. So this is just meant to give you a sense of how quick that sprocket starts and stops, because it's important. You know, if you get to the edge of a cliff or a tight corner and you're braking, you don't want to be fighting that motor and have an incident. I mean, it just starts and stops so fast. It's really impressive to me. And then there's that shift sensing I mentioned earlier, so I'm gonna trade off here. Of course, the suspension is nice. Woo! Being able to ride one-handed and handle something like this up and down hills without issue is kind of neat. I'm gonna keep doing this for a second. Look at this. It's pretty hilly right here. You know, I'm climbing up. I'm not even out of the saddle, and it's working pretty well for me, so that's cool. Kind of inspiring. Hey buddy, how's it going?
All right.
You know, I appreciate you coming out here with me. It's cool that this has a dropper on it because I think my legs are a little bit longer than yours.
Yeah.
We can just adjust this on the fly. 31.6 millimeter post, by the way, in case you want to replace this with a different dropper. Or do you have anything to share about this bike, you know, before you hop on and ride around a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, for Haibike for years, one of the more popular bikes for them has been the AllMtn Pro, and this bike effectively replaces that bike.
Okay.
And they've had some really cool upgrades for this year. I mean, you know, the plus size tires, which is becoming almost the standard for mountain bikes, and this is the type of bike you can kind of just take it anywhere, do anything with it, and it's really quite capable.
Yeah.
You know, the new Magura suspension is really pretty awesome, very well balanced, and you know, we're very excited about it.
That's cool. You know, the range on those sprockets was crazy to me, like 11 to 48 teeth.
Yeah, that low gear is wild there.
Yeah, and some people, I'm seeing more bikes, even non-electric bikes, go with like a 1x setup,
right.
You know, and I just simplicity or weight savings or something, but that's pretty much how all the Bosch motors are to date. And you know, I want to call out, you got some leaves getting stuck in here. I have heard some people, I think it's Eddie on the forums who's like, yeah, he's really hard on his bike, gets it full of mudded
up,
and he has had a little bit of like chain suck where it like sucks the chain up, but with this derailleur it's pretty tight. See the big spring right here, and I think by raising that top, you know, the sprocket equalizing system, maybe it limits that a little bit more. It's still tight in here, and depending on the gear you're in, that's the one piece of feedback I've heard from some of the really hardcore high bike riders.
Sure, yeah.
Just kind of keeping an eye on that. So
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to hop on it, ride it around a little bit, and I can maybe follow you on this other. Well, it's going to be tricky climbing. Maybe I'll just like shine the camera towards you. You can go over some routes and stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Just getting that seat post set up for the right size. Yeah. Time we can listen for some shift sensing as I ride around. Yeah, well, you know, we've done our best. We're in New York City, so, you know, this is approximate mountain biking terrain, and it was kind of fun to watch you. You weren't even standing up, just like powering right up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Doing that tight turn over there, no problem.
Definitely.
Sweet.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, these bikes are great. I think that's why I really like them, even just for messing around. They kind of go anywhere. So for the full write-up on this with all the other specs and stuff, see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Again, I want to thank you, Chris. You do Propel bikes here in Brooklyn. Been letting us mess with your brand new, shiny, clean bikes. Of course, we've been careful with them, but it's awesome to get to see these in person and take a test ride, especially at this price point, you know?
Yeah,
getting a real
absolutely.
affiliate.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Awesome.
So, thanks.
Thanks again. Ride safe, guys.